Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about how to convert a select tag into a controlled component in React. So here's my setup. I'm using Create React App for this example, and I'm just in my app component here, and in it I have a div with form container, and I have my h3 heading, which is for this here, and I have a form, and inside the form I have my select menu. So I have 4 options for the select tag, and they're all about pets, so dog, cat, hamster, and parrot, and you can see all of them right here. And at the bottom I have a submit button because this is a form, so we are actually eventually going to submit it. Alright, so that's my setup. Now let me just remove this so we can see a bit better. So our goal here is to take our select tag and to convert it into a controlled component so that it's controlled fully by the state, which is how we do things in React. So how do we do that? Well, first thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to import our useState hook. So let's do that here. And next we're going to initialize our state. So I'm going to call my state pets, since that's our those are our options here. So I'm going to say pets, and actually I should say pet, right? Because we're selecting only one pet. And I'm going to say set pet. And then use state, and initially it's going to be an empty string. Perfect. So our state is ready to go. Now, our first step here in making our tag into a controlled component is to make it so that anytime we change our selection, we update the state with that selection, right? So how do we do that? Well, one of the mistakes that beginners often make is they think that we have to do something to the options here. But in fact, we have to be dealing with the select tag itself here. Okay, so we're going to go to our select tag, and we're going to use the onChange handler here. And in it, we're going to take in our event, and we're going to set our state. So we're going to say set pet event target value. All right. So let's review what's happening here. So what we're saying here to React is anytime we make a different selection from our menu, we want React to go ahead and update our state with that selection. So the target value refers to the value of our options here. Okay. So let's make sure this is working. I'm going to go ahead and open my browser tools. I'm using Google Chrome, and I have an extension that allows me to view the state of my components. So currently, as you can see, the state is an empty string. Now, when I change my selection, you should see it reflected here. So let me change to cat, and we see cat. And let me change to parrot, and we see parrot. So perfectly. So this works well. Our first step is done. Now the second thing we have to do is we have to make it so that the value of our option is dependent on our state, that comes from our state. And our state is pet, which we are currently not using, right? So to do that, we need to go ahead and add something else to our select tag. So I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to say value equals to pet, which is our state. Okay, perfect. So now we have our controlled component complete. We're first setting the state whenever a user changes an option, and then we're saying to React, make the value of our options equal to whatever the state is. Okay, now let's actually complete this. So I do want to show you something interesting here. So let's pretend we actually have to submit this form, which we would have to do if we're dealing with a real form. So I'm going to go ahead on my form here, and I'm going to say on submit equals to, and then we're going to have a function called handle submit. Oops, handle. And we're going to define that in here. So let's say const handle submit equals to, I'm going to use an arrow function. Now, first thing we have to do is, of course, prevent the default action of the form being submitted. So the default would be refreshing the page. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to take the event and we're going to say event prevent default. Perfect. And now we want to make sure that we're actually getting the correct value here. So when we submit the form, right? So let's check that. And we're just going to have an alert and we're going to say pet submitted and output our pet. So let's save that. So now what should happen is anytime we make a selection here and press submit, we should see an alert saying what was submitted, what value was submitted. So let's go ahead and try with cat. And we have pet submitted, cat. Let's try it with hamster, pet submitted, hamster. Perfect. So it's working well. Now, there's something interesting here that I want to show you. So let's say we just refresh the page. So we have our default value dog. Now, if we press submit right now, notice we have pet submitted and we have nothing. So how come we don't have dog here, right? I mean, it is our first option after all, right? And the reason for that is this dog option, it's basically the default behavior of the browser to always select the first option of our select tag, which in this case is dog, right? But notice that we don't actually have dog in our state to begin with, because our state to begin with is just an empty string. Okay, and since the value of our select menu depends on our state and the state is an empty string, that is the reason why we're getting an empty string or nothing here, right? So this is a problem because let's imagine that your user actually was happy with the first option and they clicked submit form, and we're actually not getting a value for that. So that's a problem, right? So to deal with this, all we have to do is we have to put in the name of our first option as our initial state. So let's just put dog here and save that. And now if I even refresh this and I click submit, you see we still have dog, right? And this actually takes me to another topic. This allows us to also set a different initial state or initial option for our menu, right? Now normally if we're working in HTML or just JavaScript, we could have a selected tag here. We could put like selected, and then that should be our initial option here, right? Or in React, it's actually recommended that you do like a default value here, and then you select the default value or your default option, for example, cat. Now for us, this is not going to work. None of these are going to work because once again, our selection, our options depend on our state. So whatever the state is, that is going to be our default option. So we don't have to worry about having the selected attribute here or the default value. All we have to worry about here is state. So let's say I want my first option here to be cat and not dog. So all I have to do is set my initial state to cat. Save that, and as you can see, my initial value is cat. If I want it to be a parrot, same thing. I set it to parrot, save it, and it's going to be a parrot. So state, as you can see, makes our life very, very easy here. All right, so I hope you found this useful. Happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video.